Hey everybody, it's Chris here. Just wanted to let you know ahead of time that we've had some audio issues with this episode. So honestly, if you just want to skip it, I don't blame you. But anyways, coming up in this episode of OTH, we've got patch 11.15, the usual content review alongside picks of the week. And of course, we talk about week 7 of the LCS. We hope you enjoy this episode of On the Hunt. Welcome everybody to episode 22 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I'm your co-host Chris, aka Mr. Clickety Clackety, because I have the same loud ass mechanical keyboard for like the last 8 years, and I have tortured many friends with it.
How dare you?
Yeah, I've killed a lot of people's ears. And joining me on this episode is our other co-host, Raymund. What's going on, man?
Dude, not much. I'm actually a little sick, which feels kind of bad, man. I don't think it's COVID. It's just like a cold, but like who gets colds in like this day and age, the year of our Lord 2021, you know?
Yeah, I feel like you're so lucky if it's just a cold. Hopefully it's not COVID, man.
Yeah. But it also seems weird to think like, I mean, the other like diseases still exist, right? I can catch not COVID.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's not COVID, you'll be all right. You'll be fine. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, other than that, I'm doing good.
That's good to hear, man. I've been doing good too. Played a little bit of ARAM this week, but other than that, not too much League. What about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. A lot of good ARAM games. I think, yeah, I don't know, not too much else. I started to play a game of Civ 5 with a buddy of mine. That's like the first time I've touched that game in a really long time, but I like it.
Ooh, I don't think I've played like a little bit of Civilization on like PS3. But other than that, I've never really touched that game. I feel like I would have enjoyed it at some point, and I feel like if I actually like bought the game or something, I would have played it a lot at some point.
Right.
But I also discovered League of Legends in like 2011, so I've been on that shit ever since, unfortunately.
That's fair. Yeah, Civ is one of those games that I think it's a lot easier to get into when you're younger and have like way more time on your hands usually, because it's so easy. I remember definitely like playing that in high school and like pulling up a game on like a Saturday at like 10 a.m. and then it's like suddenly 5 o'clock and I've like barely eaten and it's like, oh yeah, okay, we're going.
Okay, dude, I gotta ask you, what's your eating philosophy on like a gaming day? Because I prefer, if I'm gonna game all day, I prefer to have one big meal in the morning and then I don't want to have to stop to eat anymore. So I don't want to have like a breakfast and then 2 hours later I have to have lunch. No, I would rather just have like a fat brunch and then I don't want to eat again until like 4 or 5 p.m.
That's fair. I don't know that I've considered what my usual schedule is on those days. I think, I don't know, it's been a while since I've had a pure, like, I'm sitting down and gaming all day, like, kind of mentality.
Yeah, those are luxuries these days.
That's true. I imagine the way I would do it now is, like, either I'm getting up early and, like, you know, having, like, a little breakfast early, just so that I don't feel like I'm that, you know, crazy of a person. And then probably, like, I have, like, a lunch that is, like, something I can just eat at my desk. And, like, I just can make it real quick. Like, I make a sandwich and then bring it back to my desk or something. And then I'm chilling that way until, like, dinner is where you have the break, right? Like, you get the pizza, hang out. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Dinner's the true break where you step away.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, we can get started with our discussions for this week. We've got patch 11.15 rolling right on through. This comes with the release of the new champion, Akshan, who is a mid lane AD carry. And all I know about him is that he jumps around and swings on a rope like Tarzan. And he revives people, allegedly.
Yeah. When you say allegedly, it makes me worried about what you're going to do when you actually get in game with them, dude. You're going to be like, what the fuck is this?
No, yeah, I mean, it's going to be crazy. I hope that there's like I believe there's a cooldown on it, so it can't happen like all the time.
Yeah.
It's like just the first takedown that you get if they happen to have killed somebody, it revives that killed person at the platform. It would be crazy if it like revived their body like right there and then they can like rejoin the team fight.
That would be so OP.
Yeah.
I mean, it already sounds like it'll probably be kind of OP, but that would be so OP.
Yeah, I'm curious how that's gonna work with like Karthus and Kog'Maw. Well, I'll just have to see. But then it sounds cool. I wish that was not his W. You know, that sounds something something that like. And Media's talked about this a lot on like the Double If co-stream the other day. But like
Uh,
things that alter the rules of the game or like break the rules of the game, or at least the way that the game is now, it feels weird that that is not an ultimate ability, I guess. But
yeah,
I guess we're always changing what should and shouldn't be possible in the game with
yeah,
every release.
it's a little true. Definitely, we've had a few champs that I feel like that's not as crazy on, like, I think Gwen's abilities are pretty, like her W is like similarly pretty powerful, but like I kind of see, like I think it's one of those that's like pretty conditional still, and it's still on a long cooldown. So I'm like it's cool with the W, not like totally game changing, but definitely something you need to learn. Like stuff like set, that's not crazy, but I know what you mean. It's definitely a weird and wild, like out of nowhere ability. It's like, oh yeah, we're making a mid lane marksman. By the way, he revives your whole team if you can. Like it could happen.
Yeah, and it's part of the lore, man.
Right.
Yeah, anyway. And also speaking of Gwen, she goes another patch being unscathed, so
No,
still another
she
patch
has a
with
nerf. She has a nerf in this patch.
directly or no way. Oh,
Yeah,
she does. She
she
does.
does. Her early
Oh,
ranks
she
in
does.
E, it's lower cooldown. I actually really like that nerf. They reduce her attack speed at like all ranks except rank 5. Um, I think that's like really good. I feel like that's probably one of those things where it's just really obnoxious to have a champ that, can go all in you at level 1. Like I think that's the thing that bugs me the most about top lane is the amount of champs and top lane players who are like, yeah, I'm a dirty level 1 cheeser and will try and win the lane just by sitting your tri-brush or something.
Yeah, I've always hated that with playing against Rivens who like all in you with Dorn's Blade level 1 Q
Right.
or like Red Pot Elixir start and they all in you.
Yeah. It's
The
like I
good old days.
appreciate it. I get that it's part of the game, but like as somebody like literally no, I think nobody does it in bot lane anymore. So I feel like I appreciate that. But like I swear every single time if I leash blue and like walk through like I'm on red side and I walk through the river, like every single time right as I walk into that river bush, I'm like I've never been cheesed in my life. Like it's just like I have to say it just to make sure it doesn't happen. But I hate level 1
Uh-huh.
cheesers. I get it, but I hate it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad that I now learned that there's going to be a Gwen nerf. And then similarly, there's also going to be a nerf to Viego. So two champs that are seeing some really high play in both normal and pro play. So Viego's getting a nerf on his Q base damage as well as his significant reduction to healing against minions, which should be notable.
Yeah.
Another change that I like in this patch, unless you want to talk about Viego a little more.
No, I was just gonna say I think it's good that they're I think continuing to try and push him more towards jungle. Like I feel like his lane is kind of boring and like uninteractive with like how he is sustained. And like his combo I feel like isn't fun to play against like either. It's just he stat checks you or tries to take a even trade and then just sustain off minions later.
Yeah, and I feel like the way that his W is, it feels like the way that Viego lanes should be the way that Kiana lanes, but Viego's just better because he heals all the time.
Hmm.
And I was gonna say another change that I saw in this patch that I really like is going to be a big buff to Zaya's cooldown, getting reduced by 20 seconds at on level 6, and then 25 seconds at level 11. So I really like Zaya, and I'm really happy that she's getting this buff because it's been terrible for a while to like use your ulti at around level 6 or 7 and then
Hmm.
just not have it for like over 2 minutes.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize it was that long of an ability. Even at rank 3, it was 130 seconds. Like that's wild.
Yeah, and it was like it just made it so necessary to have to build awkward cooldown builds even in this season where everyone else is going like collector into IE
Right.
and you're stuck here like being forced to make Essence Reaver or something.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I like Zai too. I hope I don't think this will be enough that it'll like push her back like all the way, but it's a nice change.
and then one last change that stuck out to me is a nerf to Thresh's E cooldown being increased from 11 to 13 seconds at level 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I point that out because I like to max Q on him just to like keep lowering the Q cooldown, even
Yeah.
though E does more damage. And so I think that's a pretty significant nerf to his E. And like knowing now that his flay cooldown is well over 10 seconds, it's that gives a pretty big window for you to jump on him if he ever uses that skill.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal, especially like I feel like Thresh is usually a pretty lane dominant pick, and especially if you look at him in pro, I think usually people will go. You might not even max ability before you start maxing W, but it'll be. I think Flay is probably often the third skill you max, which means it's always rank one because you're a support. So that's a pretty big deal to nerf his laning power and just like at all stages of the game, it's a pretty considerable nerf for him.
Yeah, but then other than that, just a lot of like small changes to mini champions for like one skill or one part of them. Was there any other changes that stuck out to you in this patch?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we hit the big nerf targets. I think I liked seeing just the Silas buff because I always ban that champ. I'm still always going to ban the champ, but I'm glad if I forget that he'll be a little weaker. Um, I think the Cassio nerf is kind of interesting. I like Cassio. I don't know that I've seen her like very much ever in the last like year and a half, besides the ARAMs. But that's a pretty neat buff for her to get a whole like 10 damage on her E is like one of those that's you hit so many E's. It's like when Karthus gets like a 5 damage buff on his Q, and it's like, holy shit, he's gonna be a top tier jungler now because he can clear instantly.
Uh huh.
Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I did also like the Irelia nerf. I feel like I've seen a ton of Irelia in this last patch, like since she got changed, and I think one of the things that's been really annoying is how tanky her W has made her. And so them knocking off some of the damage reduction on that has been, I think, is a welcome change for me.
Yeah, I think I got Aurelia in a an ARAM game, and it felt kind of nice to know that there's actually a good side to charging her W, and that it can act. Not only does it give you good damage reduction again, but it also can do damage. Like, and so you get rewarded for holding on it as well, like ye meditate.
Yeah,
So I really like that change to her gameplay, and it really gives her W a theme, instead of just it being used to throw another stack for your passive.
yeah. I do think
But
it's really weird that people have been maxing it first, though. That seems strange, but
yeah, it's just a little different from standard Q max, but it feels right for the new identity.
hmm
But yeah, that's it for me, for this patch.
oh, I think one more thing I'll say about this patch. I think the Rumble changes they made. I remember when Rumble Jungle, around the MSI patch, when everybody was talking about Rumble Jungle and Freak and Dom were going back and forth about it being good or bad. And people pointed out on Reddit that like the only reason that you can even play Rumble Jungle is because his overheat mechanics and just heat mechanics in general are super fucking buggy and like inconsistent. And so you shouldn't actually be able to stack your overheat at level 1, which makes your clear like way slower, like clear your first buff and stuff. So they've changed like all those calculations. Like rather than they did kind of like a heavy-handed nerf to make it so that you couldn't do it, I think. Like these are like actually mechanics changes so that it works as intended. Like if you read the abilities and the cooldowns and all that, like it's weird. I don't know. It's just bug fixes as they say it, but I feel like they should have just done this before.
Yeah, and I think the big one probably has to do with casting multiple skills at once when you're about to overheat. When really you should the way it should work is like you cast W and you overheat, not
Yeah.
W and Q at the same time, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, you're right about that though. It could have significant kind of like whiplash on actual Rumble players just for doing bug fixes.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it'll be one of those things that's good. Like people will be like, "Oh, this sucks. Like, how would they change him like that?" But then they'll probably be able to like in later patches give him compensation buffs that'll actually make it feel better, like in the end. But yeah, I definitely think like the way that it was described before, like how all the weird interactions made him work, like those felt like a lot of stuff like you shouldn't have to figure that out or know about like those weird things to be able to play Rumble. Like it should just be as you expect it.
Right. I actually have that problem with a lot of League of Legends descriptions lately, where like I'll read it and it'll describe something, but like there's no clarity about that. For example, like sometimes I don't even know what it is that the game considers to be immobilizing for things like what's the item that gives you more damage when you immobilize somebody? It's
The
the item.
Abyssal Mask.
No, it's the like
Yeah, it's Abyssal Mask.
I'm thinking of the item where it does more damage the further your skill goes.
Horizon Focus.
Horizon Focus, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that one it also deals more damage if you immobilize somebody, I
Yeah,
believe. And
yeah.
so like but there's no clarification on like what immobilize means. Does it only mean stuns and snares? Do knockups are knockups included in that? Like I don't think anywhere there's any documentation, official documentation about like what is an immobilize. And I feel like there's a lot of that sort of thing for like just random flavor text in champion skills as well. It's like well, if you do this to them, it applies this, and there's no explanation ever until like you actually go try it, and you just have to figure it out for yourself. I feel like there's a lot of that in League of Legends, unexpectedly, for
Yeah,
like a 10-year-old game.
I think that's a little true. I think a lot of the time though, it's probably like easier to understand for the most part. Like I don't think there's a scenario where you don't know if like your champion's abilities immobilize someone. You know, like most of the time you'll be playing I guess Abraham makes it a little different, right? But like most of the time, like you have like it's something that like yeah you might not know for sure. Like when you first read it, it's like oh I wonder if knockups apply to this. But like once you play like a game with it, right? Or like you already said it like by saying it, like you're like oh knockups probably should, right? And then like if you like you can go test it like in a practice tool like super fast with
Right.
Synthity or whatever like like it'll be easier to find out than like you'd think at first, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And then, well, also coming with this patch is a bunch of new skins as well. So we're getting Sentinel Graves, Sentinel Pike, and Sentinel Rengar, as well as Ruined Misfortune, which I've kind of already seen in TFT. So and it was I was pretty psyched out at first because I was like, how is that Misfortune? That's not even a skin that exists. But like they're doing a lot of cool things over there, I guess, where like things that are not even released in League of Legends, they like show up in TFT first.
Yeah, Akshan
So
it
that's
came
pretty
out
cool.
in Legends of Runeterra before any other thing, so you know.
Yeah, that I feel like that's a really good play with their universe of games and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it would be awesome if like with how popular Valorant is, if like a Valorant, I think they're called agents,
Hmm.
came to like League of Legends. I that would probably There would probably be a lot of people who would return to try it out.
Yeah, that'd be pretty wild.
And then also Cyberpop Akshan for his skin, and then a new Thresh skin as well called Unbound Thresh, which kind of looks like a person. So it's pretty creepy. He looks like
Hot guy Thresh, that's all it is.
yeah, he looks like Warlord Jarvan and Tarek had a baby, and the baby's a grown man already.
It looks like Thresh's base skin just got jealous of the Spirit Blossom Thresh where he was a real person and he was like, I want to be a real person too, but I want to be my base skin.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we can move on to talking about some content if there's anything you've seen in the last week in the League of Legends universe.
Hmm. I don't think I've seen too much this last week that I watched. I just been watching like TSM Legends and not really other stuff. Did you listen yesterday? They did an old they did a State of the League 10-year anniversary episode where they got Rush Hour back together and Kobe. I started listening to that today. It was kind of fun to listen to for the beginning.
I saw that. I didn't listen to it, but it sounds like could be a lot of fun, so I might check it out later.
Yeah, other than that, what about you? You been following any content pieces?
Just the standard for me. The dive. I think I might have listened to Face Check, but I don't remember much of it. Other than that, some Thorin stuff. I think watched like Thorin's Big Brains on Friday or Saturday, with Crumbs, and then also trying to listen to a bit of Summoning Insight today. So just the usual, and they're covering a bit of like the Baus FFS situation from the
Mm-hmm.
past weekend, as well as still talking a bit about the CLG situation and how that could have been handled better. So it's just interesting to see like different perspectives and also like in in the form of like long form content rather than just like a bunch of angry people tweeting about it, or like random people on Reddit discussing it when they're like not even a part of the industry at all, or like
Right.
or even like remotely close to the kind of jobs or industries related to either the CLG situation or the Baus FFS and casting situation. So it's just interesting to actually get the perspectives of people within the scene, in the way that like Azael kind of tweeted his thoughts about it, and it's like actually relevant because he's a caster.
Right.
Not that I wanted to get too deep into those subjects, but yeah, that's pretty much it for me on content.
All right. Cool. Cool.
Okay, and then we can cover one really quick roster move from this week, which is not really a roster move, but pretty much it looks like Team Liquid are sticking with Alfari for the top lane.
For
As
better or for
Jenkins,
worse?
I'm not too sure yet because we'll talk about this later. But
Not the best week.
yeah, their win loss ratio had a bad KDA this week. No, that's not as funny to me as I thought it was in my head. Anyways, but yeah, so yeah, it looks like for worse, but you know that's what happens when you swap some rosters around, and then on top of that, there's a little bit of shade thrown on Twitter between Spica and Alfari as well, but it's all for fun.
Yeah. True.
But yeah, that's just the one fake roster move of this week because we gotta have one every week for the summer split,
Can't go
and then
week
we can
without
do
a
our
roster change.
exactly, and then we could just do picks of the week before we talk about the LCS.
Yeah, dude. Bring it on.
Yeah, so I'll throw two picks of the week at you this week because one's not league related.
Okay.
Uh, so with that one, I'm gonna go with Smash Summit 11 featuring Mango and what was the Marth player, Zane, I think his name is.
Dude, come on.
Yeah,
You gotta know who Zane is.
yeah, and I just blanked on me. And you know, they duked it out for first place at Smash Summit 11, and apparently from all of the hype that I've been seeing, it was a really good losers bracket run from Mango, running it all the way through and taking it out on top with doing a whole 10 game finals with a reset bracket as well, to win the whole thing. So that's pretty crazy. It just kind of seeing that stuff on my Twitter just out of nowhere of like, wow, like the first LAN after COVID of like Smash being in person again, and it turned out to be a really great ending with Hungrybox and Mango turning out on top, just like the good old days.
Yeah.
And Zane is kind of an old school player relatively now as well.
I mean,
And so
kind of. A couple years, maybe.
yeah. He's not as old as the other players actually. He's like
He's
decently
post
recent.
metagame, dude. Come on.
Yeah, like 5 years, I guess, or maybe less than that. Maybe my sense of time, it's just been thrown off.
Yeah,
But
probably.
anyways, but yeah, I just saw a lot of people talking about how great the finals was, and how it went to all 10 games, and how good it was. And I'll probably not watch it because if they played 10 matches, it's probably going to be like 40 or 50 minutes long, and I just don't have that kind of attention span anymore. But it just brought me back to the good old days of like actually being excited about that stuff, and how crazy of a game Melee is, to like just how beautiful like of a wreck it turned out to be. With like we made this game, and there's actually so much hidden technicality to it
Yeah.
that like it's still going strong to this day, pretty much 20 years later actually, now that I think about it.
So you're telling me you're finding your GameCube controller or what?
I'm dusted it off, baby, let's go. Yeah, so that's my first fake pick of the week, and then my real pick of the week will be
Drum roll,
taking
please.
it's gonna be taking barrier on Melee champions and ARAM,
Ah.
which is
Ah.
extremely troll, because if you should absolutely take Snowball, but I would like to make a case for taking barrier. One, because the cooldown of it is extremely low due to like the summoner spell reduction, cooldown reduction on ARAM.
Mhm.
So you actually get it pretty frequently. And then secondly, you can use it's highly flexible with how you use it when you're a Melee champion, because if you use it right at the start, it's actually a good thing, because you should get the full value of barrier, rather than like you popping it when you're about to die, and then no one hits you, kind of like, then you, in that sense, you just kind of wasted it. And so
Yeah.
pretty much every time you use barrier, you will get the full value out of it. And then on top of that, if you happen to be playing a bit more bruisery or even a tank, you get it's practically effective health, but then but also counting in the reduction of your armor and magic resist. So it's basically free health every time the cooldown is up, and so that's my case for barrier on ARAM. It's absolutely troll. You should take
Yeah,
snowball, and snowball is
I take snowball on every
100%.
champ, dude. I can't believe you would
Yeah,
even suggest to not take snowball. But maybe you're
I
saying
know,
you
my
want to go
bad.
snowball and barrier. Like you're too Chad, you don't even need flash.
It's yeah, it's possible that is exactly what snowball is for. Snowball is literally flash but farther. Anyways, yeah, so that's my case for taking barrier on ARAM, and I stand by it. How about you, man? You got a pick of the week for me?
Dude, I think honestly, my pick of the week, if I had to make, if my pick of the week was just like what I'm gonna try and spam all weekend for as much as I play, it's definitely gonna be Akshan. I feel like that champ looks really fun. I don't know how good he's gonna be, and I don't know how much I'd even vibe with his playstyle. But he looks fun, and I'm kind of down to start grappling hook around the map as a ADC, uh, and also abuse the revive thing. That'd be pretty funny. But it'll be interesting. It's gonna be interesting for me to see how he plays out. Apparently, he has like a really low attack speed ratio, like only a little bit higher than Senna's. So, like, I think his passive is kind of interesting, like how he does, like you benefit from not kiting as much. Like if you can get your double procs off, it's a little weird. So I want to see how he plays. So I'll be trying him out come Thursday when he hits the rift.
All right, that's good looks, my man. Okay, and then we can just get started with rounding out this episode with LCS Summer Split Week 7, the final round robin of the LCS Summer Split. And I'll just run through the standings really quick. Okay, at first place, we still have 100 Thieves in first place by a game. They went 2-1 this week to put them at a summer total of 16-5. And overall, they are 27-12. So that's a greatly positive win to loss ratio for the whole year. TSM is still rocking solid, but still suffering from the Friday curse. They also went 2-1 this week, and that puts them at an even 14-7 for the summer and 26-13 in total. C9 is up next. They also went 2-1, just like the all top four teams did, with a surprise with who number 4 is in a bit. For overall in summer, C9 is 11-10, and in total they are 24-15. Newly in fourth place is going to be Evil Geniuses. They finally dropped a game after having an amazing couple of weekends, but they still went 2-1 this week in week 7 for 14-7 summer, just like TSM, and that puts them at a total of 24-15. So they are tied with C9 at the moment. Now in fifth place is TL, who went 1-2 this weekend, having played against TSM and another tough team, I believe. Their overall summer total is 11-10, and their total for the year is 23-16. So still positive overall. Next up in sixth place, we've got Dignitas. Sorry, Dignitas Quantum Pay.
Yeah,
I
come
won't
on, dude.
disrespect their
You
name like
almost
that.
lost us the sponsor dollars.
In week 7, they went 1-2 as well. Overall in summer, they are 8-13, and that puts their overall total at 19-20. Immortals had a bit of a bounce back week this week. They went 2-1, and that puts their summer total at 10-11. For their yearly total to be 17-22, now in seventh place. FlyQuest had a bit of a weak week. Now the second week for this overall academy team, they went 1-2, which puts their summer total at 7-14, and their overall yearly total at 13-26. Next up, we have Golden Guardians, who had another great 2-1 week for their newly put together roster. That puts them at 9-12 for the summer and 12-27 for the whole year. And then lastly is the last shift in the overall standings. We have CLG moving to 10th place after another 0-3 weekend in week 7. That puts their summer total at 5-16, and then yearly total at 10-29.
Uh,
I think there's a bit to talk about here, but anything that you want to get off your chest for a bit?
um, I don't know. I think, man, I think the biggest thing for me is like one, Evil Geniuses looking really good, and two, TL like continuing to look like they're just not a top team. I don't know. Either of those you want to get into?
Yeah, shockingly, it's like TL is dropping a lot of like regular split games, and it looks like it could be a problem moving into playoffs. Not just like, oh, we're suffering something, but that's only going to show in best of ones, and it's not apparent in best of fives. No, I think that whatever is going on with their team that they can't quite figure out, even with a lot of experienced players on their team, which in the end, really is only like Core JJ and Jensen. To be fair, like Alfara is just arguably a good player, but does he have
Yeah.
a lot of experience with like top teams? I wouldn't know, to be honest.
I mean,
And Tactical
he
is
almost
kind of a
beat
rookie.
SKT at Worlds, dude.
What, 10 years ago?
Okay,
I'm
it
just
was
kidding.
5 years
I'm kidding.
ago.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you
kidding.
very much.
um, but yeah, so it is kind of weird that they have some veteranship around across the like from top to bottom, but they still overall seem to play kind of a slower style, and it doesn't seem to be that they are an explosive team who are so smart with all of the kind of like years of experience on their team, and or at least veterancy from Core JJ and possibly Jensen, to like lead Armeo and Alfari to like just make really fast paced moves across the map. They still prefer to play like kind of a slower pace, even though older older NA pieces are no longer on their team, like Double Lift and that kind of an impact.
Yeah, I agree. I think the weirdest thing for me about them is that they've just been like completely unable to beat any top teams. Like I think after this week, they're like 0-8 or something against EG, C9, TSM, and 100 Thieves, like on the split. I might be wrong about that, but I know they haven't beat TSM in regular season. I know they haven't beat 100 Thieves. Um, like it's troubling for them for sure. Like even if you make it into playoffs, like at number five, like I think it's hard for them to probably lose that number five spot. They're currently still 4 games ahead of Dignitas, and I don't see Dignitas making up that much ground in the last 2 weeks. Um, but it's like you have to beat some of those teams eventually. Like you can't just keep coasting and lose every game to them. So they have to figure out something. I don't know.
Yeah, like you said, there's only 4 games left in the whole summer split. So for
Six,
week 8 and
six.
week 9.
They play 3 games a week, Ben.
Holy shit, I'm tripping, dude. Okay, that's that changes my whole what I was just about to say. Thank you very much. Um, but anyways, yeah, there's still room for a lot of movement within the standings because all of the top 5 teams are fairly close together with their standings, and all of the bottom teams are fairly close with their standings as well.
Yeah.
I think what I want to talk about next is FlyQuest and Golden Guardians because in a weird way, I consider this week 2 for both of those teams, not actually week 7 in terms of like the development of their rosters and like being able to have time to play together and practice and improve.
Yeah.
And so I'm still looking forward to FlyQuest and Golden Guardians performing week by week, even though FlyQuest did go 1-2 this week. But uh, I still want to give them time to show and grow. And it's just interesting because moving into playoffs, there's going to be 8 teams, and even if FlyQuest and Golden Guardians are like seventh and eighth place, in a theoretically, if they were to be, like, I would still be excited to have them in the playoffs, and then like even being in the lower bracket, it sets a better floor of like skill for the playoffs. Of like, okay, now really show us that like you're actually better than FlyQuest and Golden Guardians, who are like, or any other team that is seventh and eighth, five, six, seven, eighth place in
Right.
the playoffs, and like the floor of how good you need to be able to move on and eventually reach the finals is higher because I feel like FlyQuest and Golden Guardians are not shit teams anymore. So I'm excited for that in that sense.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. Definitely like I mean if you remember last split, the playoffs were or maybe not last split, last year, last summer. Like the lower bracket in the playoffs was just kind of a joke. I felt like, TSM I forget who I think it was TSM and EG who went into the first round of the lower bracket and both of them just like hard fucking stomped their um first losers bracket match and it was just like okay, did we really need Dignitas and whoever else was there to like show that they are still bad or what like so I'd like to see those guys like step it up from the bottom side of the standings and kind of make it a formidable challenge. um, I don't know. I'm a little shaky on the FlyQuest train still. Like this week, they played some better teams. Like a, certainly a part of it. Like they lose to like 100 Thieves and team or no, who'd they lose? 100 Thieves and EG, and EG is like hotter than hot like right now. 100 Thieves is still a good team. Like they're still number one, even if they've had some shaky performances the last couple of weeks. And but their game against TSM like it shows resilience, but it was still a weird game. You know, you like probably you replay that game like 9 times out of 10 it should still be TSM winning. But I mean, it was obviously like still really cool to see FlyQuest be able to pull off that upset from the game state that they were in.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
awesome.
but but it is a little disheartening for the that like if I might think if I'm FlyQuest, depending on how things have gone with my main roster in Academy the last couple weeks, like if FlyQuest burns out another week this week and like doesn't look very good and Golden Guardians like catches up to them, I might put in my main roster for week 9 again and put them in for week 9 in playoffs if assuming they make it.
Yeah, I think the next 2 weeks are obviously going to have great implications for seeding for the playoffs, and then there could be a lot of tiebreakers with just the way that it is now at the end of week 7 for both the top half and the bottom half of the bracket. And so, speaking of the top half, I'm glad to see C9 playing a bit better again as well. And I remember a game where like I think a team was diving Fudge up top, and for some reason Vulcan was there and like absolutely turned that turret dive around to like 3-0 the other opponent team. And so that was like a really exciting moment to see out of them. But
But they still lost to Immortals, and they only beat fucking CLG and GG. Like it's the same thing for them. I don't know. I feel like all the top teams minus EG are looking still on shaky ground. It's funny. Like look, I can look at 100 Thieves and TSM and see that they have good records in the summer, good records in the last 2 weeks. Still, like it's not like they're imploding, but they don't look as good as you expect from like when you say like top two teams.
yeah, true. And yeah, EG has been on like an absolute burner, and they do still have the potential to finish out in first place, given that there's still 6 games to go through. And I'm excited to see where they'll end up next week because in a technical world, they could be fighting for first or even second place
Yeah.
by the end of next week. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm. It makes me really hyped to see what's going to happen next week and how the standings are going to turn out.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely, it's going to be a big week for a lot of teams to solidify their positions. I think if you're the top two teams right now, you want to go 3-0 and just make it feel as if there's no way that you can possibly drop out of that top two spot. And like that's tough. That's a lot of pressure for the other teams too. Like if you're C9 or you're EG and you lose one of your matchups this week, it can easily be like out of your reach to get that bye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then is there anything else you want to talk about, or then we can preview some games for next week?
No, I think I'm good on those. I think we hit most of the points that I wanted to go over. CLG is just a dumpster fire. I don't need to talk about them anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. I think also one last thing I want to talk about is I remember this a game from this weekend where it looked like Dignitas just absolutely did not want to win.
Oh
I think
yeah,
they were playing against EG, and it was just like, whoa, are you guys okay? Because like it was just like
it was
very,
embarrassing.
yeah, it was full of inting for some random reason.
They had a pretty cool game. I liked Acadian's play this week, and it was fun to see him pull out Kane, and like they looked like they were doing pretty good when they were winning. I mean, they beat 100 Thieves this week. That was one of those where it was like, damn, 100 Thieves is really gonna go and lose to Acadian Kane. Like is that all it takes? Just Chad Jungler taking over your game. You're 100 fucking Thieves. You should be stomping these kids.
Yeah, I actually really appreciate that game because I think he played Blue Cane that game, and he actually showed like he has played a lot of Kane. The way that he was like walking through walls and then like queuing into the his own inhibitor so that he can to extend like the range of his E.
Hmm.
And like it looks like he has played a lot of Kane and like has a lot of comfortability pathing with it through walls to like make sure you get the maximum effect of the move speed and the duration of it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I really like to see that, and that he played Blue Cane over Red,
Yeah, it's
and
just
that
a
he actually
little
got form.
right. It is just a little unfortunate that you go from that game where you fucking like dominate 100 Thieves kind of, and then go and just like look like there's no life in your body against EG.
Yeah, that EG game was really weird for them. And then coming up for the next weekend, we've got a bunch of big matchups coming up on Friday.
Dude, I
So right,
I feel like Fridays, I don't know that I want to hype up any Friday matchups. Like they all go exactly the opposite of how they should, right?
yeah, that's true. But anyways, the first few games are have big implications for the top four standings. We've got C9 100 Thieves coming up first at 3 p.m. And then right behind that is EG versus TSM. So we could see a bit of a shakeup, or we could just see two stomping games of 100 Thieves being C9 and then possibly EG over TSM as well.
Yeah.
I think another game that I'm looking forward to this weekend is going to be FlyQuest versus C9. You mentioned before that C9 lost to Immortals last week, and so this is another team where unless C9 is right back to their spring split form, if they're still struggling, then they could have a hard time with FlightQuest here, and they could. It's very possible they could lose a game there.
All right, I got to give a shout out to TSM versus C9 on Sunday. NA El Clasico kind of. Gotta get those ones in. Should always be banger games coming from those two teams. And then other than that, I think I also want to say that Golden Guardians against TL is going to be a hype matchup too. See if uh, see if Golden Guardians can keep up their impressive streak and beat a contender team, and then also see if TL can prove that they can beat teams still. Uh, like that'll be an interesting game for both of them to kind of prove themselves as teams.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm totally excited for TSM versus C9, and honestly, I should pay a bit more attention to EG's games this weekend, and we'll see how they compare. How I feel about how they're comparing to 100 Thieves and their kind of current form as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the way I see it, if things play out kind of as I'd expect, I think that EG versus TSM is actually like our finals matchup, and we'll see that on Friday. Like that's that's how I'd imagine playoffs is going to go at this point. With seeing how C9 is played, and they look out of whack still, and 100 Thieves dropping some weird games, and TL just like I've lost faith in them to win like any important games. Um, I could easily see TSM and EG being the top teams come end of summer.
Ooh. Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. And then one last thing that I'll throw in is that for week 7, the player of the week was Impact, and I figured we should probably start mentioning that.
Yeah, I mean, EG man, they're just too good. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and then additionally, a game from this weekend, I believe Impact did something crazy where he broke the record for biggest goal differential at 15 minutes or something like that.
I think he had the biggest differential at 10 minutes and at 15 minutes of all time of any role. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
just
so
biggest top lane difference; it was all all time biggest difference. Anybody?
yeah, so that's pretty crazy that it's crazy that it's not crazy that it comes out of the top lane, but I would have never expected something like that to come from Impact with kind of the narrative role that people have given him over the years of like him being a tank player and that sort of thing, or
Yeah,
like playing Gnar is like the most aggressive thing he might do. So
yeah.
it's great to see that out of him, and he's been playing great recently as well.
I think Doublelift made a good point about it on the co-streams this weekend. Because I think his two pop-off games, I think he was playing like Renekton into Ornn and then Renekton into Volibear, right? The game we talked about, the record-breaking one, was them against Dignitas. Like that was just that game on its own was kind of an anomaly, I'd say. Um,
Yeah,
but the other game where I remember him going pretty nuts was yeah, I think it was. Let me see if I can find it. I think he played Renekton into Volibear or something like, or Renekton into Ornn, and Devilif talked about it and was just like, man, you can't like you can't pick these kind of matchups. Like you can't pick tanks into Impact and expect to like beat him in the matchup or neutralize him in the matchup because he's played like 7,000 games of tank matchups against carries, right? And like he knows exactly how to exploit you and exactly what you're gonna try to do to try and neutralize it. And that guy has just played the weak side end of it for so long that he knows like exactly how it's not gonna work.
yeah, it is actually really awesome to hear that. Like, really, you're gonna try to like kind of like sin away with like getting a bad matchup by playing Ornn, and hopefully like it'll be okay later against Impact.
Right.
Like Impact's gonna know that like that this is the opening, because if I played this matchup, I would hate if the Reaction player did this or something. So
Right.
yeah, that's really cool to just show off like its extensive experience and knowledge in the role. Okay, that's going to be it for episode 22 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on the service that you are listening to us on if you haven't already subscribed. We'd appreciate it if you would also give us a rating or hit the like button to show some support. You can find us on YouTube as well as your podcast player of choice, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify and so forth. We'll see you all next week for another episode of On the Hunt.